As promised, in this video I will show you how to deal with the triggers of smoking. And as usually, it is not what you expect. Or maybe you already expect me to say that it is not what you thought it is. This trigger thing is completely misunderstood. What's a trigger? Well, I checked the dictionary because by not being an English native speaker, I always try to make sure that I understand the proper meaning of a word. In my language, maybe you do the same in your language, we sometimes skip, we believe, yes, I think I know what it is, so I don't bother verifying. When we understand the words that we use, we are more able to make clear the ideas that are in our mind. Of course, my messy whiteboard, when I present to you something, doesn't look like this. I clean it, but as soon as I have an idea, I put it there. So, last night before going to sleep, I had a thought about these triggers matter. And what you see in blue on that whiteboard is all about that idea. So please allow me to use the notes that I made here, because I don't want to skip some ideas from it. And let's move on with seeing what these triggers are. Normally what we understand by triggers is something that when that thing happens, it will generate a reaction of something else. So most of the people, smokers or non-smokers alike, believe that in smoking there are these triggers. When you drink a coffee, when you have sex, when after a meal, or when you are stressed, picking up the phone, and so on. What people seem to never think of is, if these are triggers of smoking, how come that the non-smokers don't have them? They are not triggered to smoke. So they are specific to smokers. Why is that? So it is not the things in itself, the things themselves, my great English, is not the things themselves that make you smoke. It is because you are a smoker. And to go deeper, is because of the nicotine addiction, as I keep teaching you. Now, how can I prove this thing? If you say that the triggers make you smoke, it means that if the triggers wouldn't be there, you wouldn't smoke. Is that true? So if you don't drink coffee, you don't feel like smoking. If there is no stressful situations, you don't smoke. Come on, we both know that's not true. You smoke whenever you have the opportunity to do it, or when you feel like. Yeah, you can be 5 or 6 cigarettes a day, or you can be 40, 50 cigarettes a day like I was. I mentioned few so-called triggers. If that is true, it means that if you avoid those triggers, and this is what the normal, so to speak, normal quit smoking methods advise, they say avoid the triggers. How can you avoid those triggers? Some that we mentioned is alcohol and coffee. I didn't mention alcohol actually, but I mentioned it now because when the evening that I stopped smoking, in December it will be 7 years, after smoking my final cigarette, knowing it was to be my final cigarette, I went, as usually, as I did almost every night, I went to my drinking pal, and I had a drinking evening. I didn't smoke, and I enjoyed the whole evening because it was a friend that I was visiting. I enjoyed because of, on one hand, because I was visiting a friend, and on the other hand, because I knew and I was proving to myself that I can have that great evening without smoking. So that made it really beautiful. It would mean that, how come one day before, or let's say I would have had a beer earlier. That was a trigger, but 30 minutes later, when I was a non-smoker already, the trigger didn't work anymore. Come on. See, it's a common sense understanding that we need. So it didn't trigger me. How come? Now another, I still drink coffee every day, and again, it would mean that if drinking coffee is a trigger, I should smoke, triggered by the coffee that I drink. And I know. So see where I go with this. If I'm a non-smoker, it doesn't matter what happens, nothing will trigger me. So it is not about triggers. It is about being a smoker or being a non-smoker. Another example, this one I want to be maybe ironic, maybe funny, take it as you wish, but anyway, enjoy it. I mentioned sex, I mentioned smoking after a meal. Okay, if those are triggers, and if it is good to avoid the triggers, as other teaches you, avoid those. Okay? Avoid, never have sex anymore, because it will trigger you to smoke. And best of the best, don't eat. Okay? Avoid the meals, because you know that the meals, after the meals, you have a trigger to smoke. Come on. Don't answer the phone anymore, because the phone is a huge trigger when the phone calls. So, one more thing. As long as we don't understand how it works, we cannot duplicate the process. So, if I don't understand how to drive the car, I will be afraid to even try. By not knowing, I hold myself back, and I'm worried, and I wonder, will I be ever able to stop? So I want you, please change your mind. I'm not saying believe what I say, but by using common sense, please understand, please start asking yourself these kind of questions. Is it true what I've heard about these triggers? And maybe you will see that it is not that. And from that point on, you can look at what may be the right answer to a question. Otherwise, you will keep the same beliefs that you had already, and you will get the same results that you have already, which is either not quitting smoking, or you stop but you are frustrated and suffering and so on. So, understand everything is based on principles. You have to see what the connections between the dots are, and to see the fundamental things of smoking, and then you will be able to stop. Understand the principles, okay? Yes, and then, as I said earlier, the good answers will arise by themselves. When you see them, you're one step further from quitting for good. Thank you for watching. Come over my website. Please join my email campaign. Quit smoking now, only if you know how. Thank you. Bye-bye.